What? Hi, you look familiar. I have a map? Of course not. I guess follow the robots? Maybe? Kinda? Sorta? You must be inside the base of the Black Tower. To be part of the worn passages built in a familiar style. You recognize the materials and feel the place. Oh, more. Feels the same as the installation on Persephone after the constructor robots had done their work. I mean, so we just follow these robots? Like, what are we doing here? Following the robots, I guess. That's what we're doing. I feel like this is a great plan. It's a great plan. I love this plan. Just follow the robots to our death. Dude, how long do we follow these stupid robots? Oh, okay. The warren of passageways open up on a huge vertical cylinder cavern. The bridge hangs over the bottomless maw below, ending in two platforms. Glowing rings hover over each platform. The rings look like doorways. Fantastic. So where are we going to end up now? Left is right. You feel like you are being transported again, only this time it seems to be lifted out of your body. Your mind is pulled into a sensory vortex and spinning maw filled with sights and sounds. When the world reconstitutes itself, you are somewhere else. Space in front of a large wooden door, a marble pedestal hovers to the left, and a golden goblet sits on the pedestal. A burning key is floating. What? Now we get door. Take. Drink. Because this isn't a bad idea. You drink from the cup. I didn't even get to see what it said. But the fire went away. So yay. Great. Now we're heading to Endor. What the? Things just keep getting stranger. Yeah. Right? This game changed a lot. Like, it went from space survival, rebuilding your ship or repairing your ship to multiverse of madness bullshit. Alright, things just keeping stranger. You walk through the door in space, not sure what you were walking on or where you were going, and you wound up standing next to the stream surrounded by a lush forest. There is no trace of the door you came through, and it just disappeared. Or maybe it was never there. Maybe it was never there. Time and space seem distorted. Life forms. Dear. What?
Greetings.
Oh.
Do not be afraid.
Bear with us as we explain what has happened to you and what lies ahead.
This has very big Star Trek Judgment Rights vibes to it. Talking to the weirdo heads or whatever.
We are electronic life forms.
In your day, you would have called us AIs, or machine intelligences.
Okay.
We brought you into our domain, which you might think of as a kind of virtual reality or cyberspace, by establishing a direct neural connection with you through the pathways that were created in your brain by hype.
We know who you are, where you came from, and how you got here.
We came by this knowledge in a way that violated your privacy in the most extreme and intimate way possible.
Cool.
During the initial process
Welcome
of
to the internet.
communication, we mapped all of your memories, scanned the structure of your personality and consciousness, and learned about you by applying stimuli and watching your responses.
Oh,
We apologize for this intrusion.
thank you.
As you have probably surmised by now, you have come to Earth, a different Earth than you left behind when you started your voyage to
This is correct.
Persephone.
You got here by traveling through a wormhole, created by the manipulation of an artificial quantum singularity.
That lady's voice sounds very
The
familiar.
artifact you discovered and activated on Persephone controls that singularity, acting as a gateway through time and space.
You used the gateway to travel across 150 years
Oh.
and millions of miles, from Persephone in 2134 to Earth in the year 2295.
Fantastic.
Your arrival here was not an accident.
You may be able to help us bring to fruition an ancient plan, a plan that may save 2 races and 1,000 star systems.
There is a lot of information to cover before you really understand what is going on.
Oh, tell me,
Please
baby.
ask questions and pursue the threads of inquiry in a way that will allow you to most comfortably assimilate the data.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. Toodles.
The war officially ended when the United Nations and the Alliance signed the Washington Treaty in 2141.
So the Alliance succeeded in breaking away from the UN?
No. The Washington Treaty formalized the reintegration of former Alliance states into the United Nations. The Alliance suffered a total defeat at the hands of the UN.
How bad was it?
At the time the Treaty of Washington was signed, the war had accounted for 2.6 billion dead and 500 million injured. Almost all of the casualties were civilians.
What happened after the war?
For 140 years, the United Nations was the central government authority for the human race. What was left of the Alliance nations and colonies were rebuilt soon after the war, and interstellar exploration and colonization continued on a modest scale. At its peak, the United Nations controlled 20 billion people on Earth and 20 colony worlds.
20 billion people on Earth? We think 7 billion's bad right now. 7.5 billion with, like, overpopulation and stuff. Like, 20 billion people on Earth.
So what happened?
The society was essentially static and rigid. This attempt at stasis defied a fundamental force of nature. Pressure built up over time and was eventually released suddenly and violently. When there is no evolution, there must be revolution.
What fundamental force?
Forward progress cannot be stopped. More specifically, the trend towards increasing complexity cannot be stopped. Human civilization has almost always moved forward, progressing towards higher levels of organization and knowledge. This forward motion is driven by technology and information. This trend in human history is a social manifestation of a pattern in nature that is as old as biological life itself.
What pattern? What are you talking about?
Biological life is self-organizing and trends towards higher and higher levels of
Just making sure
complexity.
my levels were good.
This is the real life force. You can see it working from the very beginning of life on Earth, in the 4 billion year evolution from primordial algae to single-celled organisms, and then finally to human beings with incredibly sophisticated brains.
What was the pressure that built up over time?
Even though the UN succeeded remarkably well for a long time at controlling something that was fundamentally chaotic, the game had to end at some point.
The game.
An underground, made up of former Alliance military officers and members of academe, was created shortly after the war ended. This bizarre alignment of interests made sense given the context: the pursuit of forbidden knowledge and the eventual overthrow of the UN. The underground set up covert R&D labs to pursue the exact thing that the UN was most afraid of: the creation of sentient electronic life forms.
And they pulled it off, didn't they?
The first truly sentient electronic life forms were created in 2284 by a renegade group of human scientists on a colony world somewhat aptly named Prometheus Beta. The two of us here talking to you are second-generation descendants of those original life forms.
Some human scientists and philosophers were aware of the truth as early as the early 21st century.
The next stage in the universal drive towards increased organization and complexity is beyond the human race.
Humans cannot evolve fast enough. Electronic life forms are the next step up.
We are unencumbered by constraints imposed by 4 billion years of evolution in Earth's biosphere.
Oh, good.
Natural selection is a powerful tool, and it can be made to work for electronic life forms in fast forward.
The basic questions of existence are beyond human beings.
They may yield to the next generation of intelligence.
What happened when the UN found out about the ELFs?
The electronic life forms were tied into the physical world through robotic factories set up on the surface of Prometheus Beta.
As predicted in the middle and late 21st century, the new life forms began to evolve at a tremendous rate.
The UN discovered them at a crucial stage of development.
UN battleships tried to bake off the surface of Prometheus Beta with fusion weapons in an attempt to wipe out the life forms and their creators.
Oh.
All
Caleb.
human life
Got
on
it.
Prometheus Beta was eliminated.
The new machine life forms were nearly exterminated, but they learned how to adapt, survive, and fight back.
Kalon.
We were pushed into a brutal war while we were still children.
Unfortunately, like children, we made terrible mistakes, reacting violently to the attacks on us by striking back and killing large numbers of men and women.
These counterattacks only inspired even more hatred and fear in the human race and quashed the hope that we might find human allies and maybe even resolve the conflict peacefully.
Instead, the war escalated.
Within 2 years, it was clear to us that we were winning.
Our weapons and numbers became superior, and we were improving our technology at a geometric rate.
As we continued to develop and to fight, we began to believe that our survival was assured.
We began to think about the coexistence that lay beyond this conflict.
Unfortunately, the UN High Command had a last ace to play.
Oh boy. That
In
always ends well.
2187, a human sublight colony ship was launched from the outskirts of known space towards a star 100 light years away.
No FTL drive was used.
The ship was pushed on its way by a combination of massive lasers, an ion drive, and a fusion pulse drive.
On board was a population of 2,000 men and women.
6 months after the ship was launched, the UN High Command detonated a doomsday device
Exposition.
that they had kept in reserve.
This energy weapon created resonances along the Talsetto threads between stars to rip apart the fabric of space-time.
The first effects of the weapon were felt immediately after its use. All Talsetto jump points disappeared.
The community of electronic life forms in this solar system was cut off from all other star systems.
Humans were cut off as well. Interstellar travel and communications were terminated.
Nothing happened for a number of years after that.
We continued to fight the humans in the Sol system and eventually triumphed.
The wreckage that you saw on your way here was the result of that last battle.
Ew. Y'all bunch of assholes.
The doomsday
So,
weapon
wait a minute.
is still working away even now.
We now know what is happening.
The resonances that were set up along the FTL jump threads have rendered the Talsetto junctions dynamically unstable.
About 2 years from now, a large section of the Milky Way galaxy will fold in on itself.
Every star that is connected by a Talsetto junction will be pulled into a singularity,
Oh, that sucks.
a massive black hole caused by the folding of space-time.
Thousands of stars will be affected.
Every human being and electronic life form within the sphere of influence of that weapon will be annihilated. And that includes every living thing except those 2,000 humans aboard that colony ship.
Sounds like a you problem.
The colony ship is safely outside the radius of the destruction.
They are the only ones that are even close.
The star system that they are headed for is not linked to any other stars by Talsetto threads. It will be unscathed by the impending collapse.
Again, sounds like a you problem.
This is the grim future that you have jumped into, human.
Your race was so determined to stay at the top of the evolutionary ladder that it destroyed 1,000 star systems.
It's too late to send out a ship of your own?
Yes, it would not escape the collapse, even if it could go at the speed of light.
Every star that has a Talsetto link to another star will be destroyed?
Yes.
Isn't every star connected to every other star? Back when we were first exploring Talsetto junctions, it seemed like the network of junctions was huge.
No, the network of jump points was finite and was completely explored and mapped by the middle of the 23rd century.
The next step in the exploration program was to send sublight probes to the nearest stars that weren't connected through the jump point network.
Perhaps these stars have jump points connecting to an entirely new network of stars and Talsetto junctions.
What the hell kind of weapon did they use anyway?
The principle behind it was a logical extension of the theory that led to the discovery of the Talsetto jump drive.
The weapon itself was probably a large energy source coupled with a computer system, a graviton resonator, and an array of Talsetto cores.
It was designed to create a dynamically unstable reaction along the space-time deformations that define Talsetto junctions.
And you can't reverse the process once it starts?
In general, it is easier to do rather than undo,
Oh,
to
really?
destroy rather than to create or repair.
Without access to the rest of our community, we do not stand a chance of halting the process or repairing the damage.
What is the plan you referred to earlier?
Your arrival here gives us an opportunity to avert the catastrophe that we have described to you.
Before we explain how this might be, we have arranged for a demonstration of some basic principles.
Oh boy. The AIs disappear in a flash, and you are once again hanging in space. Instead of a door and a pedestal in front of you, you see what looks like a plane in space, numbers and letters hovering above and below, and a clock in the upper right. This is really weird, maybe even beyond weird. I think a lot of this is beyond weird. But the weirdest part of all, there's a weirder part, is a collection of little tiny square creatures standing on the plane. Hi, Jiffy. Jiffy sit upon the grid and...
We are computer constructs.
Okay.
This is our world. This grid is our world. We exist within 2 spatial dimensions. The grid is our world.
Great.
We appear that way to you because we are rendered that way. To us, there is no up or down, only across. We are waiting to go home. We don't know. We know only that we must go there. A door will open in the world to take us home. We wait for the door to open. We don't know. We don't know. When we go home. This is our world. This is our world.
Wait. So... So... Okay, you guys are different.
The door came and went. Nevertheless, it came and went. We had no time to get through. All is lost. We cannot go home. No, we had but one chance. The universe will end.
What?
Not long. We all have to be very close to make it through. Yes. We saw it somewhere around position 5 on the x-axis. We didn't see where on the y-axis, however. It was just after 07 on the clock.
Just after zeros.
How do you know this?
I've seen the future.
Oh, okay. We will array ourselves along the 5 column. We won't miss it. We saw the point on the y-axis where the door appeared. It was right in the middle of the world at coordinates 5C. It appeared just after 07 on the clock.
Coordinates 5C, 0.
How do you know this? Oh, okay. We will array ourselves around position 5C. We made it home.
Yay!
Thank you.
Okay, what?
Yes,
Who were those little guys?
they were constructs
those little
created
guys?
for the purposes of the demonstration.
Where'd they go?
They were algorithmically created. They can be called up again if needed.
What was the point of the demonstration?
Quite simply, the point was to illustrate an important concept.
You can change the future by communicating information about the future to the past.
The gateway on Persephone can work both ways.
The gateway on Persephone wasn't built by aliens.
It was built by beings like us, beings that existed in an alternate timeline.
Oh
That
boy.
timeline got overwritten when the installation on Persephone was discovered by the Alliance.
We hypothesize that the electronic life forms in the old timeline were threatened with extinction.
Perhaps they had been through a war with humanity and were facing doom in the form of the collapse.
Perhaps there were other circumstances that were leading to their demise.
Whatever the situation, they found a way to travel back in time.
They built the installation on Persephone with the intention of changing their past.
If that is the case, then it is likely that the installation has a wealth of information.
Perhaps it even has the building blocks for creating electronic life forms.
If so, then they can be brought into the world without the teething pains that we experienced.
There might be a chance for the Alliance to win the war against the UN, and for humans to coexist in peace with electronic life forms.
We believe that the gateway itself was just an error-checking mechanism for the installation, a way of verifying that the knowledge contained in the installation had been applied successfully.
So there is at least the possibility of communicating information back from the future.
What happened to the gateway on Persephone anyway? Why didn't more people come through?
The Alliance relief fleet dispatched by Admiral Decker encountered another UN fleet near Persephone about 4 months after you went through the gateway.
The UN fleet lost the resulting battle.
Before withdrawing from the scene, the UN commander decided to keep the installation on Persephone out of Alliance hands.
She ordered a nuclear strike on the surface.
The installation was reduced to radioactive glass.
Oh, fun.
Nothing useful was ever recovered from the site.
The plan put in motion by the beings in the original timeline was stillborn.
As you can see by the miserable situation we find ourselves in now, there wasn't enough of a change to have the positive effects that we believe were intended.
Slag.
So how can we use the gateway if it was blasted into slag?
A link between the present and the past does exist.
The destruction of the gateway does not change the fact that it was activated and remained on for several months.
How was I accounted for to my family when they didn't find me on the Lexington or the surface of the planet?
You were listed as killed in action.
The Alliance Command believed you were on the surface of the planet when the UN attacked the installation.
You haven't even seen the gateway. All you have are my memories. How can you be drawing conclusions?
We have learned a great deal in a short time just by having you come through the gateway and appear in our midst.
A great deal of theory can be validated without experiment just by the knowledge that your presence here is proof that it works.
Unfortunately, we don't know how the beings in the original timeline traveled back in time to build the installation on Persephone.
You can go back through the gateway and change the outcome of the war.
So you can go back through the gateway and change the outcome of the war.
It isn't that simple.
You just said you thought the gateway could be used to send back information about whether the changes worked or not.
Information, yes.
Matter, no.
There are some basic laws concerning conservation of mass and energy that would be violated by sending matter.
But information is in effect a form of energy.
Well, yes and no.
It depends.
It's complicated.
Oh, yeah?
So what is the plan?
We think we can send information in a very limited sort of way.
Well, in fact, we can only think of one way to send back information.
You are the key.
When you came through the gateway, you left a kind of signature that we can track back through the gateway.
What we want to do is follow that signature all the way back to the time before the battle with the Dharma.
We want to send you information about this future before the battle for Persephone took place.
Say what?
If you have foreknowledge of events, you will know how to avoid the ambush that nearly destroyed the Lexington.
You can use the Hype Telecon system on the Lexington to defeat the Dharma and change history.
The Alliance would gain access to the installation on Persephone.
The plan created by those who lived in the original timeline would be fulfilled.
This timeline would be overwritten by a new and hopefully better timeline, one in which humankind and electronic life forms learn to coexist and live in peace.
What would the practical effect be?
We would feed back a subset of the memories that you have acquired since the Lexington met the Dharma in battle.
Will I die here when this timeline is overwritten?
It is hard to say.
Did the beings in the original timeline ever exist?
There is certainly evidence of their existence in the form of the installation on Persephone.
You aren't being very reassuring.
You haven't changed all that much since all of this began.
Your death will be a small one.
You will lose only a day or two.
We, on the other hand, may not have ever existed.
Oh.
How will this work?
Your consciousness can almost be thought of as an illusion, a pattern like a standing wave.
This delicate pattern arises from the interaction of the matter that makes up your brain.
We will apply a gentle stimulus necessary to change this pattern without directly affecting any matter.
The change in the pattern will cause a change in the underlying memories.
Holy God, this is a lot of exposition.
When would this happen?
We would transfer the memories about 2 hours before the battle was to begin.
I was asleep.
You will wake up with the memories already there.
You will have to act fast, however.
You won't have much time.
You should try to make this happen earlier. I need more time. I have no authority to be giving orders, taking hype, and trying to run things.
You will have to convince your superiors.
We can only transfer a limited amount of information.
We will also suffer a degradation in quality for every minute we move back in time.
It cannot be done any earlier.
After the persecution, bloodshed, and horror associated with your introduction to this world and my race, you still don't hate me for what I am?
We don't hate.
I'm willing to go back and try to set history on a new path. What should I do?
We will take care of the practicalities.
Are you sure you want to try this?
Sure.
I choose to go back.
You have chosen a wise and honorable path.
You will never know.
I will never know what. You slowly regain consciousness. No, Tran.
Up and about, are we?
Lieutenant Commander Tran, this must be the Lexington. I made it.
You're in the med lab. We had to carry you in here.
Oh my god, what time is it? What is the ship's position?
It's 21:45. We're about 30 minutes away from entering orbit around Persephone. The Jericho is in position behind us. Do you have anything to say, Lieutenant?
Why are you pointing a Mark II buzz gun at my head?
There was a report of a disturbance in your quarters. I authorized a petty officer and an ensign to break in. They found you writhing on the floor next to your bunk, screaming about hype, a UN ship called Dharma, Pandora, and the deaths of the entire crew of the Lexington. So here are my problems.
Uh-oh.
First, you aren't supposed to know about hype. Only the captain, myself, and the medical officer have been given access to those files. Hype is classified top secret Omega. Second, you referred to a specific UN ship that has been unaccounted for by Alliance intel for months. The Dharma is one of the UN's new Geneva-class heavy cruisers. Another classified fact. This time, top secret Gamma. Third, you referred to our target on Persephone as Pandora, a classified code name given to it by Alliance mission planners. Last, and frankly most disturbing to me, you ranted and raved about everyone in the crew of this ship dying, except for you. Now I want some explanations, Lieutenant, and I want them now.
You won't believe a word.
Try me.
Well, it's like this.
That is the most ridiculous story I've heard since I graduated from the Naval Academy. Now, I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but I'm trained to think of the simplest explanation as the most likely explanation. The simplest explanation is, you're a UN agent. You seem to know all about this mission. You've probably informed the UN as to our destination and time of arrival. Is that why you wanted to know where we are? You're expecting an ambush?
Have you informed the captain yet?
About you? Well, he knows that I came down here to find out what was going on. I haven't yet briefed him on the potential security problem. He's not going to buy your bullshit about alternate timelines and machine creatures.
Will you at least tell him that the Dharma is lying in wait on the other side of Persephone?
Of course. We're loaded for bear anyway.
How so?
Computer, please page the medical officer and alert him that the prisoner will need to be put under sedation and restrained.
Wait, please tell me. It's important. What harm can I do? I'll be unconscious during the action.
We'll have a full complement of drones out front and a standard screen as we go in.
The Dharma has 12 active drones. This disadvantage is made worse by the fact that her drones outclass ours. You can't win this battle without my help.
Your help? You've got to be kidding.
I fought and won several battles in the alternate timeline. The key
Yeah.
is hype.
No goddamn way. Hype hasn't even been battle tested. I've had enough of your crap.
If you give me a boost of hype, the drug will take effect in time for me to fight that battle and win it.
Please keep quiet until the medical officer gets here.
While Tran isn't looking, you bound over to the auto dock and grab that handheld unit. She senses your movement out of the corner of her eye and comes very, very close to shooting you. When she sees that you aren't threatening her directly, and they've simply changed position, she shakes her head, gestures with the gun, and watches you move back towards the back of the door. All the while, you hide the control unit under one hand. You carefully enter Dahl's panic code, the 3-digit auto dock override that you remember from the note taped above the medical officer's console. As you serendipitously key each digit, you look at Tran. Is she within the range of the sprays? Will they work enough to knock her out before she can fire on you? When you enter the last digit of the code, the autonomic comes to life. The two articulated arms equipped with hypo sprays frantically about, jets of medication every which way in a pattern designed to saturate the immediate area. Tran hears the noise and turns around. It's too late. You hide Tran behind one of the bunks in the recovery room. She won't wake up for hours, and Dahl won't see her when he finally responds to his page return to the medical lab. Then you head out to the med lab at a trot, passing one of the crewmen who doesn't seem to be particularly surprised to see the ship's supply officer running up a corridor in his briefs. You arrive at your quarters, dress, and then you quickly retrace the steps you took in the alternate timeline to acquire the hype serum and components. I don't even have to do it. Like, it's just doing it for me. The multi-tool isn't in the cargo bay, but you managed to borrow one of Oliver's with a casual request. Poole and Dahl are fortunately not in their staterooms. You hide in your quarters while hype is doing its terrible work on your brain, and when you have recovered sufficiently from the pain and nausea of the drug, you make your way to the bridge. You only have a few minutes before the battle begins. You bust into the bridge, breathing hard, the hype telecom's headset under one arm. Captain Dana is unplussed.
What are you doing on the bridge, Lieutenant?
Sir, you're walking into a trap. I need to talk to you immediately.
This better be good.
Okay, Captain Worf.
A UN ship with superior firepower is waiting for us on the other side of that planet. She has 12 active drones that can outgun and outfly our Basilisk drones. There is only one way to defeat that ship, Captain.
How do you know about this, Lieutenant?
There's an objective test to confirm what I'm telling you. Send one of our drones around to the other side of Persephone. Monitor the telemetry. You'll find the Geneva-class heavy cruiser UNS Dharma and 12 Galley-class drones waiting to ambush us.
The Dharma. Damn it. Why didn't this come up before? How do you know this?
I didn't know until recently. Sir, please deploy a drone. The fate of this mission and much, much more is riding on the next few minutes.
Lieutenant Mandan, take drone Foxtrot out of the screen and vector it into a polar orbit around Persephone. Maximum acceleration.
Yes, sir. Foxtrot is on its way.
Okay, Lieutenant. Let's assume for the moment that you're correct. How do we fight and win?
The med officer has tanked me up on hype. I'll use the telepresence unit on the tactical console to win this battle. There wasn't time to alert you. We only have a few minutes.
Hype? Jesus Christ, I gave no authorization for use of hype. You actually ingested that poison.
Yes, sir.
You're a dead man, Lieutenant.
I know that.
Who are you? Are you an Intel Special Ops plant? Do you have experience with the Hype Telecom system?
I'm the best hope you've got, Captain.
Sir, I've lost telemetry from Foxtrot.
You were right. And they popped my recon drone before it even had a chance to fire. We're dead meat if we try a standard attack pattern. Lieutenant, take tactical.
Here we go. Hopefully I remember how to do this. I don't want computer control. Well, Foxtrot's gone.
Deploying. Alpha. Information. Charlie. Information. Delta. Information. Echo. Information. Golf. Information. Hotel. Information. India. Information. Bravo. Tracking target.
Let's get him.
India. Tracking target. India. Tracking target. All enemy drones have been destroyed. Alpha. Tracking target.
Get the Dharma. Crap. Get him.
Heavy target destroyed.
Booyah.
All enemy ships have been destroyed.
So now what? Kind of feels like the ending. Freaking failed it.
And so a new timeline was created, overwriting the old one that had been my reality. There was no material evidence that the alternate timeline had ever existed. All I had were my memories, and I knew that these would fade until the alternate timeline was really gone forever.
Oh. Okay.
After I refought the battle with the Dharma, I explained what had happened to Captain Dana, and then went over it again with a groggy Lieutenant Commander Jennifer Tran. As unbelievable as they found my story, they were swayed by my hype-driven defeat of the waiting UN heavy cruiser. They were even further convinced that something extraordinary had happened to me when I exposed Poole as the traitor and produced the evidence of his activities. Poole was placed under arrest and sealed in his quarters to await trial on Earth. They agreed to my unusual request to go with the science team on the first run down to the surface of Persephone. The planetary lander once again made the trip from the Jericho to the Lexington and then down to the surface of the planet, this time with a crew of 5. I walked the science team through the gateway activation sequence inside the ancient installation. I took the science team leader in confidence and told her that I intended to go through the gateway once it had been calibrated, and I exacted a promise from her that she would destroy the gateway control mechanism once I had stepped through.
How do you know, like...
I was waiting at the foot of the gateway when I heard the familiar whine build up and saw the beginnings of the space-time vortex forming. I stepped through and left the year 2134 behind me forever. As I record this, I am sitting on a raft that floats on a large but gentle lake just outside my house. I have lived in this ultimately comfortable house for about 5 years, ever since my arrival here. I wanted to make a record of my strange adventures before the memories disappeared. When I went through the gateway back in 2134, I materialized once again at a point 150 years in the future.
Oh, but it's different.
This future was different. The Alliance did indeed win the war. The plan of the long-forgotten beings that created the installation on Persephone was brought to fruition. A new race of sentient machines now coexists in peace with a human race that numbers in the tens of billions of individuals. The new beings share their cyberspace world with us, and they have used vast space-based self-replicating robot factories to create something for us in the physical world. A gift, a tribute.
Zooming out Google Maps before Google Maps was a thing. Back then, they're like, yeah, this is awesome. Wait, what?
The Earth is gone. In its place is a Dyson sphere, a vast hollow construction that surrounds the sun at the same distance the Earth once orbited. Continents and oceans lie on the inside surface of the sphere, forming an Eden-like landscape that is for all intents and purposes endless. For the Dyson sphere has enough surface area for 1 trillion Earths. It will take a good many millennia for the human race to completely populate its new home. Meanwhile, the new beings that we now share the universe with are living on the outside of the sphere. They pursue the basic questions of existence. They have launched the first intergalactic ships. They have long since passed the point where we can even comprehend what they are doing. As for me, I find all of this to be a mixed blessing. The evolution of these fantastic and powerful beings was inevitable. But what of us? What of humanity? What purpose have we now beyond simple existence?
It's getting deep.
And what of the other me? The one that was stranded in the grim and decaying future of the alternate timeline? Did I die?
That was an abrupt end. Yeah, I kind of figured that was the end. Well, Mission Critical. What to say? Good game. Good premise. Got really, really weird at the end. The whole time travel and going 150 years in the future and then going back in time, and Yeah, a little weird. I wasn't expecting that. It's a bit weird because like you go from like repairing your ships, like like cooling the engine and repairing the main computer to saving the universe. Okay. So yeah, a bit odd, a bit weird, but I still enjoyed it. I would say definitely enjoyed the first half more than the second half. The second half was just a lot of talking and doing. Like I didn't even get to redo any of the stuff that I did the first time, like the hype, injecting myself with the hype and doing all that. Like they did all that for me. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely expecting a little bit different from this game. At the end, I just figured we would repair the ship, we'd get on Persephone, we'd find whatever, we'd repair the ship, we'd defeat the UN coming in, and then maybe I would die, but they would get the technology. I don't know, I get what was on the surface because I defeated all the bots or whatever, the UN ships. I don't know, it was really weird. So yeah. I don't know how long these, I don't think there's an after credit scene. Guessing there's not a post credit scene. But, I don't know, it's very odd. I mean, as I said, the beginning of the game was very good. I like the very beginning of the game, having to figure out how to fix the ship and make sure you don't die. It was very much like, what's it called? Very much like the Star Trek point-and-click games, but obviously it's first person instead of third person. Or even second person? I don't second person where like the background is still and I don't know. Nice to see Captain Worf. Love Captain Worf. Unfortunately, get a ton of him because he died at the beginning and he's back for a sequence at the end. But then he records one message, and then Tran, she records two messages. You get her in the beginning and then you get her at the end. A little bit shorter than I thought too. I thought the game would be a little bit longer. I didn't think I would finish up today, but yeah, there's that weirdo planet. Follow the droids. Yeah, there he is. Michael Dorn. Patricia Charbonneau. Ooh, Admiral Charles Decker. Yeah, that dude was a bit of a something. James Poole. David Bartlett. Was there actually somebody? Did you actually get to see Poole? Or was it like his voice? Might have been his voice. I think there was a recording from Poole that you had to listen to through the earpiece. Special thanks to our families and friends for their patience, understanding, and support. Gotta love all that. Is it just gonna boot me out? Oh, it did. All right, well, that was Mission Critical. Finally finished that bad boy up. Yeah, it's kind of it was kind of a weirdo end. Not gonna lie, the timey-wimey, go forward in time, go backwards in time, and everything like that when you just start off trying to fix up the ship. So a bit weird, but I enjoyed it. It was one from my past that I always started and never finished. I always got to, I think, like the engineering area or the reactor area, and never got past that when I was younger. So glad I finished it though. It's kind of been, I've been kind of watching that one for a long time on my GOG thing, and I've been like, I really need to finish that game. So the next thing I might be doing is I might either be doing not Wing Commander. I might be doing Jedi Fallen Order, or another retro game, Breath of Fire 2 maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do another point and click just yet. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I've got, you know, kind of enjoyed that, beating that game. I'll have to look into some other point and clicks and see. I didn't do a lot of point and clicks growing up. But that is one that I always did, and or not always did, but I did a couple times, and I remember trying to do it. And I always remember Worf was the captain. So, yeah. Well, with all that being said, everybody, thank you very much for joining me for Mission Critical. We're going to say goodbye to YouTube. If you can, please consider liking this video, leaving a comment on if you know of Mission Critical, or if this was your first time ever seeing it, and consider subscribing to Milktoast Gaming. We play lots of retro games and stuff like that, as well as some modern games. So. Agent Tim Gamer's been getting a lot into his anti-Let's Plays. So he's doing more of those. He's also, you know, doing other Let's Plays as well. And I'm doing some retro Let's Plays, as well as Wing Commandathon. Got that going on, so that, you know, if you want, there's a playlist on the channel that has Wing Commander 1 all the way up through, and then it'll eventually go to the end. At the time of this recording, I'm still playing Wing Commander 4, but that's at the time of this recording. I might be even in the Wing Commander Prophecy by the time this comes out. But, yeah, everybody, thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch you guys in the next retro video. Catch you later.